From the NBC newsroom in New York and in Washington, the National Broadcasting Company has brought its listeners a commentary on the German report of Allied landings in France. The National Broadcasting Company will continue its network service throughout the remainder of the night in view of the important but so far unconfirmed reports from overseas. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Ladies and gentlemen, we may be approaching a fateful hour. We take you to London.
The Supreme Commander, Allied Expeditionary Force, General Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you.
Beethoven's instrumental music discloses to us the realm of the tragic and the limitless, and awakens that endless longing which is the very essence of Romanticism. Is it not possible that for this very reason he is less successful in vocal music, which portrays effects specified by words, rather than those indefinite emotions experienced in the realm of the infinite? And what instrumental work of Beethoven exemplifies this to a higher degree than the immeasurably noble and profound Symphony in C minor? How this marvelous composition carries the hearer irresistibly into the spirit kingdom of the infinite. These words, written by the renowned author E.T.A. Hoffmann shortly after the 1808 premiere of Beethoven's Fifth, are taken from his article Beethoven's Instrumental Music, a seminal piece of music journalism that inspired both the romantic idolization of the composer and a long tradition of ascribing extra-musical meanings to the Fifth Symphony. Over the course of more than 2 centuries, this work, which is as much a piece of absolute music as a Bach fugue or a Mozart string quartet, has served to illustrate everything from the Allied liberation of Europe to Hollywood cartoons, the specter of fate knocking at the door, and even the theoretically life-altering impact a consumer can expect upon the purchase of a car, a pizza, or a scouring powder displayed in a television commercial. And yet, when we consider how a piece of abstract music can inspire such a vast array of extra-musical associations, it's most useful to begin by examining its musical substance. This is particularly important with Beethoven, whose compelling life story has generated a dense mythology that can obscure the sheer intellectual accomplishment his music represents. A crucial difference between Beethoven's symphonic style and that of Haydn and Mozart was his strong preference for short melodic snippets, or motives, instead of melodies as the primary material from which he'd fashion a movement. As a result, lyricism becomes a complementary element within a larger context that emphasizes rhythmic energy, and in this regard, the Fifth Symphony is a prototypical example of this defining characteristic of Beethoven's music. The famous 4-note motive that begins the piece has its antecedents in a 4-syllable metrical foot in classical Greek called a quartus pion, in which 3 short syllables are followed by a long one. It's doubtful Beethoven knew this. Although he was well versed in the works of the great ancient Greek poets, he read them in German translations. But his extraordinary ability to see vast potential in apparently commonplace material allowed him to perceive the fundamentally propulsive quality of this rhythm, as well as the dramatic potential inherent in the contrast between 3 short fast sounds and a concluding sustained one. He also understood the implications of the motive's asymmetry. Its iconic first statement starts not with a sound, but with a silence as explosive as any in music. Beethoven's choice to begin a symphony on a rest may be unique. Instead of starting on firm footing, the music simply erupts in response to some unperceived force, immediately galvanizing our attention. And the off-the-beat inception of the figure accommodates its incessant repetition while driving the music forward in a manner that's identifiably Beethovenian. Every element of the motive is exploited for development. While its fast eighth notes dominate the first movement's texture, its ending half note is used in isolation to create a range of atmospheres, from the grandly rhetorical to the tentative and fragmented. Even the pitch choices in these opening bars reveal a profound intent. The first 4 pitches are a paraphrase of a 4-note descending scale figure known as a lament bass, a musical trope associated with tragedy that appears in music throughout the common practice era. From the song Flow My Tears by the Renaissance composer John Dowland to the Crucifixus from Bach's B minor Mass to the finale of Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony. Within the context of Beethoven's Fifth, this melodic line underscores the first movement's essential despair, a quality that's revealed with naked directness in the solo oboe's surprising, unaccompanied iteration of the pattern midway through the movement. And this Allegro's second theme, which expresses a consoling lyricism that appears to be unrelated to the stormy music of the opening, is in fact derived from the melodic outline of bars 6 through 9. In Beethoven, inspiration and calculation exist in equal measure. Although the molten compression of the first movement soon came to symbolize the revolution Beethoven brought about in Western art music, it was the unprecedented manner in which the following Andante, Scherzo, and Finale formed a dramatic response to that movement's implied proposition that fundamentally altered the scope of the symphony as a genre. Once again, Beethoven accomplished this through means as material as a sculptor's, using the 3 short notes, 1 long note pattern of the symphony's opening motive throughout the entire work. It's the rhythmic basis of the Andante's second theme, and the movement as a whole is dotted with subordinate appearances of the figure. It also serves as the foundation of the Scherzo's second theme, proclaimed at first in fortissimo by the horns, then cast in a cryptic setting for pianissimo strings and single woodwinds upon its repetition, and finally becoming the heartbeat of the transition to the symphony's finale, a transformation as thrilling as any ever written. This secondary theme reappears in quietly dramatic fashion in the otherwise celebratory final movement, a poetic reminder of previous travails, while the movement itself is abundant with paraphrases of the symphony's core motive and the lament bass from which its pitches are derived. Such a comprehensive use of cyclic form, in which the recurrence of a theme or a piece of musical material in a multi-movement work is employed to achieve a sense of unity, was unprecedented in symphonic music, and in Beethoven's Fifth, the ubiquity of the core motive invests it with a presence that's analogous to a character in a drama. These implications of narrative provided an example that would have a profound effect upon symphonic music during the Romantic era and beyond, from the programmatic symphonies of Berlioz to the de facto symphonic novels of Mahler. The symphony's implied allegory also rests upon a carefully constructed harmonic foundation. Symphonies that end in the minor mode are relatively rare, and thus it isn't noteworthy that a work beginning in C minor would find its way to a C major conclusion. But Beethoven exploits this evolution from musical darkness to light with much greater dramatic intent than any of his predecessors. The C major tonality appears at various points during the first 3 movements as a sort of promised land that alternately looms and fades, while C minor remains a stubbornly threatening presence in both the scherzo and the finale. This underlying harmonic battle is intensified by Beethoven's frequent excursions into remote tonal areas, such as the 7-flat tonality of the A-flat minor episode in the second movement. But by the time the finale's coda is reached, all harmonic shadows have been banished, and the texture is wholly suffused in an exultant C major. The extraordinary 29 bars of fortissimo C major chords that end the symphony aren't gestures of noisy, empty rhetoric. They are the definitive, victorious confirmation of a heroic symphonic quest's fulfillment.